What the Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan, and also a fantasy football enthusiast. And today, specifically, I want to talk a little fantasy football, specifically Dynasty fantasy football, where rookies mean a whole lot more to your team. Now, for those of you not familiar with fantasy football, in general, you are drafting from among the best skill position players in the NFL, so quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and there are some other variations where you can have an entire team's defense, a kicker, individual defensive players. There's a lot of different variations, but in general, that's the premise, and you're trying to put together the best roster that can score the most points on a weekly basis, and then in the last probably 4 weeks of the season, puts together 4 straight wins to win your league Super Bowl. So in general, there's a bunch of different formats, but I'm going to be focused on a more traditional format with a dynasty twist. Now, dynasty means that your core team stays mostly the same from year to year. You build around pieces that you already have, you drop others, and there's a lot of variations to this as well. There's some with salary caps, like the league that I'm in. There's some where you can only keep about 4 or 5 guys every year, and the rest go back into the general pool of draftees. But the general premise is that rookies are more valuable because they are younger players that are going to be in the league longer. And you also are evaluating not just for this year, but for the future as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to focus on one quarterback leagues and kind of go through who I think are the way too early rookie prospects, ranked about 1 to 20, give or take. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on any of them, just more give my list here. So 1 through 4, I think, are all kind of the S tier of this class, and I think you can take any of them reasonably, depending on your team needs, as the number 1 overall draft pick for a rookie. Number 1, I think, is really tight between Breese Hall, who is now a New Jersey Jet. Yes, I will always call them New Jersey Jets. He is the running back, 20 years old. He's coming into a great situation where the Jets have really beefed up their offensive line, and almost everybody on paper gives the Jets an amazing grade for this year's draft. I agree with it. I think they did really well. And another guy in my top 4 here is a Jets player as well. So Breece Hall, running back, number 1 overall. His tape is amazing. I think he is probably going to go number 1 for most rookie drafts, but he's going to have competition from another guy, Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State, now a Seattle running back. There is a lot of word that Chris Carson, who has been injury-prone, great player, but injury-prone his entire career, that he's probably retiring this year. So that opens the door for the lead back situation in Seattle, and they did just draft Cross and a couple of other guys in the draft to build up that offensive line. Yeah, I know. After Russell Wilson is gone, they finally decided to build up the line. That was his main complaint, and now they've done it. But they're going to be bad at the quarterback position this year unless they make some sort of trade for Baker, which nobody really is anticipating at this point. So they're probably going to have to run the ball a lot. Now, Rashad Penny should get the starting role there for the beginning of the season, but Kenneth Walker's talent is amazing. And just watching his games this year against teams like Michigan, Ohio State, he just looked electric on the field. And he's looked electric for the last couple of years as well. So I'm really excited to see him at an NFL level. And I don't think you're going to have a problem if you take him over Breece Hall, but I think Breece Hall's landing situation is just slightly better. For the wide receivers, it's really tough for me here. I'm going to go with a little bit of the home team action. Wrong side, home team action. And I'm going to pick Drake London, number 1 on the wide receiver board. He is the very clear number 1 wide receiver in Atlanta right out of the gate. If you take away Kyle Pitts at tight end, which a lot of teams figured out a way to do last year, even though he had a large number of receptions and targets, he still was only about 60% efficient in catches. So Drake London, if he comes in and is anything like Calvin Ridley or Julio, you have found yourself a core piece of your team for years to come. And again, best wide receiver on the Falcons the instant he was drafted. Number 4, Garrett Wilson, New Jersey Jets, wide receiver. Instant number 1 receiver on that team. The Jets needed offensive weapons for Zach Wilson to throw to and to build around, and I think they did it in both Hall and Wilson. Now, What will Wilson do this year? I don't know. I think he's going to start probably as a wide receiver 2, end up moving into that wide receiver 1 position by early in the season. He's definitely somebody I think is going to contribute this year and in years to come. Now, the Jets have been a major laughingstock in the NFL for years now. It seems like they always find themselves in the top 10 picks for about the last 5 or 6 years. However, I feel like they finally, with the head coach situation, the general manager situation, and in general, the way they've drafted the last 2 years, they finally have the pieces together to no longer be bottom dwellers in their division. I don't think they're competing for a playoff spot this year, but they're going to be competitive in a lot of games. And really, in 2023, 24, 25, that's when I think they're going to be really competitive. So you are going to want pieces of the Jets' offense going forward in a dynasty format. Moving on to number 5, and really 5 through 9 I think are pretty close in general. Really, and just looking at my list again, 5 through 10 are all guys that are kind of that same tier. Most of them are wide receivers. There is one running back mixed in here, and I think you would be safe taking any of these at any point between 5 and 10. We'll start at number 5, Christian Watson. Now, I'm a little higher on him primarily because who the heck is Rodgers going to throw to? He doesn't even know Amari Rodgers, the other guy on that team. They have, Big Bob Tunyon. They have 2 running backs that they throw to. They lost MVS. I think Alan Lazard is still on the team. The point is, I don't know who they're going to throw to if it's not Christian Watson. Now, they also picked up, I can't remember his name, it was a guy in, I think, the 4th or 5th round, who I know guys like Tom Grossi were big on. I think it's Duab or Doos or something like that. But anyway, Watson should very, very, very early on be producing. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is quarterback there, if they develop any chemistry whatsoever, you are going to be happy that you have Christian Watson on your team. Now, 3 years from now, when Rodgers may retire or may no longer be a Green Bay Packer, maybe his value is not as good because that quarterback situation will be very different then. But for the time being, in the short run and probably for the next 2 to 3 seasons, he's a guy that you can roll with. Number 6, I have Jameson Williams. As long as Jared Goff is there, I don't know how valuable he's going to be. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the number 1 receiver there. But again, Jameson Williams is probably the best receiver overall in the draft, but he has some injury concerns. So who knows how he's going to do this year? I don't think it's going to be very good. If you're drafting him this year and expecting him to be your wide receiver 1, you are delusional. But he is going to be somebody that probably produces on some level this year. And when they inevitably draft a quarterback or try to do something with that position, he will likely be a favorite target for whoever comes in there. So he's going to be good in the coming years, but not necessarily this year. Moving on to number 7, Chris Alabe, New Orleans wide receiver. They moved up in the draft to get him at number 11 overall. They still have Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas is no guarantee to play. And if Michael Thomas leaves, you are left in a bad situation where Chris Alabe is very clearly going to be the number 1 guy there. So there's not much more to say there, but their quarterback situation is also a little bit in flux. I don't know that Jameson Winston is the long-term option there. And they don't really have a great backup situation overall. So I don't know his long-term value, but he should be good this year. Number 8, a running back in this tier, James Cook at Buffalo. Instantaneous best running back they have. He is better built than Devin Singletary. He's a little less injury prone than Zach Moss. This guy is going to be finally the guy that takes the pressure off of Josh Allen to move with his legs. He will be a great addition to any team. He may not start out the gate strong, but I predict by midseason he is their primary back. He also catches a ton of balls. Think James White, who runs better. That is James Cook. He's also Dalvin Cook's little brother. They look very similar in their game. So if you like Dalvin Cook, you should love James Cook. Number 9, Sky Moore, Kansas City. Big hole to fill left by the absence of Tyreek Hill. In general, let's see here. Yeah, Tyreek Hill last year had 159 targets. So those are up for grabs between 3 guys now. You're bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster. You've got MVS out of Green Bay, and now you've got Sky Moore. But Sky Moore is almost purely more like the Tyreek Hill situation where he's more of a slot receiver. So he is fast, and he looks a lot like Tyreek Hill. Think maybe discount Tyreek Hill. And again, probably the best, one of the top 3, if not the best quarterback for the next 5 to 6 years going forward throwing to him. So, again, I think he's a great pick for you. Number 10, Treylon Burks, Tennessee. A lot of guys have him higher because, my God, who is Tannehill going to throw to this year? But I still think that offense runs through Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry is probably going to run, if he can stay healthy, he's probably going to run for 2,500 yards this year. That man is a beast and was on pace to do close to 3,000 last year. I really think that offense is going to run through him. I don't know how much it's going to end up helping Burks there, but he should still be the number one receiver in that offense, which is why I think he's still a first-round rookie pick. Now, next we have a little bit of a different tier here, 11 through 15. This is where I'm going to start adding some quarterbacks in. Now, if we're talking 2 quarterback leagues or superflex leagues, these guys move up into the middle of the first round for rookie picks, but we'll get to that in a second. My number 11 pick is John Mechie out of Houston. Brandon Cooks is still there, but Mechie, even though he got injured in the championship game, he is an amazing talent at wide receiver. Houston got a great deal on him late, and he should find a lot of success in that wide receiver 2 position, with Cooks being the guy who draws double coverage a lot of times. We'll see how Davis Mills progresses this year, but you just never know. Number 12, George Pickens. Number 2 receiver behind Deontay Johnson at Pittsburgh. It's hard to evaluate this position because they have a completely new offense. They're running with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. And I don't know who's going to start, and I have no way to compare them to what Big Ben was doing. Big Ben was throwing the ball 30 to 40 times a game previously. Who knows if they're still going to keep that production, but I do look for them to be a little bit more balanced. I think Najee Harris is going to get the ball a lot more, and I think they're going to be a very different Pittsburgh team than they have been, but George Pickens still has value there as a future pick, maybe not so much this year. Finally, we're getting to a quarterback, and this is the homer in me, Desmond Ridder, Atlanta Falcons. I would take him over Kenny Pickett. I think he's the most NFL-ready quarterback. I think he's going to be starting probably by mid-late season so that they can evaluate him for the future to see if we need to take what I inevitably think is going to be a high draft pick to take a quarterback, or if we can roll with him and take other skill position players for the future. So Desmond Ridder I like a little bit better as the number 1 quarterback off the board, but right after him at number 14 I have Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, pause for a second. Sorry, I had a sneeze. Kenny Pickett is probably going to be the guy that sees the field first as a quarterback this year. So if you are looking to have a backup quarterback, I would not take him in a regular league before round 13. And really, he's a guy that I think should just stay on the waiver wire for most of the year in regular leagues. Now, in a Dynasty league, is he going to be great this year? No, but he'll probably have some value somewhere early to mid-season. So he's the guy that will probably be on the field first for this class of quarterbacks. Moving on, number 15, Jahan Dotson, Washington Commies. I don't know what to make of him. Carson Wentz is terrible. He's somebody that's probably going to be good in the coming years. They took him with a high draft pick overall, number 16. Has a lot of talent. Ended up in a bad situation. Not sure how he's going to do. Number 16, Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver out of Dallas. You have Amari Cooper and C.J. Wilson gone. He's going to be their wide receiver 3. He may end up being their wide receiver 2 because Gallup is eventually going to get hurt. That man cannot stay healthy for an entire season, even though they just paid him a lot of money. Jalen Tolbert is going to end up having value this year. I just don't know when it's going to be. Moving on, David Bell, wide receiver Cleveland. They don't have a lot of weapons outside of Amari Cooper. So, again, with Deshaun Watson, you can find a lot of value in a lot of different positions there. They are instantly better at the wide receiver position, and he's a guy that I would take a late-round flyer for. But, again, I don't know how well he's going to do this year. Number 18, Rashad White, Tampa Bay running back. Huge upside if Leonard Fournette goes down with an injury. He is a pass catcher, and he's in a potent offense. If Tom Brady goes down, all bets are off, but a guy for the future there. Number 19, Tyler Algier out of Atlanta. He is going to have to face competition from Damian Williams and Cordarrelle Patterson. I really wish Cordarrelle would move to wide receiver, but I don't think that's going to happen. So he'll be third down type of back, or the third back on the depth chart. But a guy that I look to take over that number 2 and possibly the number 1 role for the Falcons if things go his way, if injuries happen, or if he turns out to be a great player. And finally, number 20, I put a tie between Malik Willis and Matt Corral. Matt Corral is at Carolina. There's a good chance he's going to start by midseason because of how bad oh gosh, I can't even say it. Darnold is, and then there's the same thing with Malik Willis at Tennessee. They're probably going to give him a look at some point. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the first 20 picks of a rookie draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, consider subscribing, and please hit the like button. It'll help us out a lot. Until next time, rise up.